Sandy Shore here on board the Smooth Jazz Cruise 2013, week 1. And with me is legendary saxophonist David Sanborn. Hi.
Legendary, does that mean old?
It means that you're a solid cat.
Oh, solid cat, babe. Okay.
It's amazing to me that this is the first time you and I have met, and I'm actually very excited about it. And I've been playing your music since I was 15, and that's 35 years.
Wow.
I know, it's a long time. And I have to tell you, when I was in back on the FM days, I programmed a pop station, and we were playing, you know, Culture Club and all the pop stuff. And in my office was hanging a picture of David Sanborn, and I think it was the Hideaway album. Is that the one where you were lounging?
Yep. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, on the back with my girlfriend at the time, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was or maybe it was Close Up. What's the one where you had the long curly hair?
That was Straight to the Heart.
That was the one. That was a great cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to start off very shallow here. Beautiful cover there.
You're right in it's my neighborhood, right?
Starting deep. But no, I did, and people were like, who's this guy? And I'm like, this is, you know, David Sanborn, his saxophonist. And your music has always, to me, really fit in the world. It does cross over, and finally we live in a time where you will hear contemporary jazz with pop, with rap, with R&B.
Mm-hmm. I think that's true. You know, I mean, I've always been a real strong proponent of, you know, no boundaries. And I think that's a result of the way that I grew up in St. Louis. And a lot of people of my generation, and certainly younger, grew up listening to pop music and jazz and rhythm and blues and whatever the various categories were. And we didn't really differentiate, you know, in terms of, you know, this music is better than that music. It was all great music, and you just judged it on its own merits. And I think because I grew up in a musical environment that championed that kind of attitude, it really kind of fostered that approach to music for me, you know, very early on. And it just seemed so, you know, nonsensical to start to, you know, to artificially establish boundaries like this is jazz. Jazz starts here and it ends here, and this is where pop music starts and then it ends. And I mean, why do that? It's such a limiting thing that, you know, because the fact is that all musicians really listen to all different kinds of music and are influenced by all different kinds of music. You know, the very nature of jazz is that it's an evolving art form, and it absorbs the culture around it and changes it. And I mean, basically what all music, and for that matter all art, does is the artist takes in his experience of the world, filters it through his personality, and sends it back out. Mm-hmm. So it's like this, you know, cycle. And, you know, unless you're hermetically sealed off from the world, you have to be affected by, you know, pop music, what's now been called world music, music from other cultures. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's inevitable that your music is going to reflect that.
That's true, and I think the internet is helping us with this global community now of that human thing we like to do to compartmentalize, and it's kind of breaking down those boundaries now, which has got to be great for you as an artist.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because, I mean, I've kind of, you know, existed in that, you know, that musical, you know, it's like the DMZ, you know, it's like that area between, you know, I get pot shots from the jazz community, from the, you know, what they call the jazz police, and then I get pot shots from the pop community, and, you know, I mean, it just seems so unnecessary to me. And you hear, well, you know, case in point for this cruise, you hear somebody like George Benson, who is a huge star in the pop world. I mean, you know, people all over the world know who George Benson is. Right. You know, he's had pop hits, he's well respected in the jazz community, and I mean, that to me is you know, the nature of what music should be. I mean, you know, look, there's room for all kinds of music under the sun. Music is an open sky. And, you know, I listen to music that's, you know, quote, more straight ahead, that's got like a, you know, swing and not a backbeat. You know, I think the rhythmic orientation really defines the music in many respects.
That's a great thought, actually. And you're right. I mean, if you think about how jazz started, it is of African descent, isn't it?
There's no question about it. It's African music. I mean, period. You know.
Rhythm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and you know, it's the music of it's the music of Africa, you know, melded with some of the harmonic overlays of European music, but it was, you know, formulated in the culture of New Orleans, and that's where it really, you know, kind of this great melting pot of you know, music from the Caribbean, which in fact was African music, and the European marching band tradition, military band tradition, and some, you know, the European song forms and harmonic concepts, and you know, that's really what jazz is. But jazz is at its most fundamental, and at the roots of it, is African music.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw a little thing in New Orleans. They said it was started out by people, the parents of the kids that were into it, saying, "Now stop listening to that Jezebel music. Stop dancing to that Jezebel music."
Wow, I never heard that Jezebel music. Okay,
I don't know. That's one thing. Of course, the Irish claim it as theirs as well. Who knows? Though you know how the Irish are.
Well, you know, you have a few those single malt scotches, and you're liable to say anything.
Yeah, you claim everything, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, that's mine. Hi, son. That's mine. It is.
I love it. So, what are you working on right now? Are you in the studio?
Well, Bob James and I are actually working on an album together. We're going to do, yeah. It's very interesting, and we're on this cruise together. So we're kind of taking whatever free time we have to, you know, just continue to kind of work on the stuff. And because of the nature of technology these days, you can kind of, you know, listen to stuff and make edits and, you know, different. We basically recorded all the music in a couple of days in New York City right before Christmas.
That's great.
And now we're just kind of editing, and I think, you know, we're maybe going to add, Bob's going to add a few little, you know, touches here and there, you know, orchestration touches here and there, but not much. Going to leave it pretty unadorned.
That's cool. Is Marcus going to try to hone in on that?
I don't know. You know, Marcus is always hovering there in the background. I mean, he's pretty unavoidable. You know, I mean, he's so great. I mean, he's such an enormously talented musician.
He
you
really
know,
is, yeah.
And you know, in addition to someone who really knows my playing extremely well.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So he's very intimate with it, and I think that's why all those songs have come together for both of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
And it's a fun cruise, too, here with you and Marcus and Bob on board and George on board. I mean, really, you know, we have to really protect this ship because if anything happens here...
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
High security on the high seas.
There you go.
So I want to talk a little bit about how you take care of your health. You obviously are very fit, and you've done an amazing job, you know, to overcome some serious health problems in your life as a child.
Well, because I've always had... to be aware of my you know, just become very aware of, you know, the physicality of life, you know, and how how important that is as a result of being sick as a kid. You know, I was in a hospital for a couple of years as a kid, you know, in an iron lung, and then paralyzed from the neck down, and gradually kind of regained my strength, and actually took up the saxophone as therapy, you know, or at least my parents allowed me to play the saxophone as therapy to build up my lungs.
That's great.
So, you know, I think I kind of went a little bit off message, you know, in the late '60s and through the '70s, you know, like many people of my generation did, you know, succumb to the siren call of, you know, substance abuse.
Of a higher calling?
Well, yeah, higher, okay. In a certain sense, yeah.
The literal sense.
Yeah. But, you know, I think that, you know, period aside, certainly since then I've had to be much more aware of my, you know, physical limitations, and also what I have to do to maintain, you know, a basic level of health, because what I do is very physical. I mean, playing music it's like being an athlete. Especially playing a wind instrument, you got to be in shape to do this. And so, you know, I do a lot of breathing exercises. I try to work out, you know, on a fairly regular basis. It's a little tough on the road, but I try to do it, and I'm particularly, you know, conscious of what I eat. You know, and yeah, and what I don't eat. You know, I don't eat bread or butter, dairy products, and no red meat. And you know, a lot of fruit and whole grains. You know, like brown rice, whole oats, and things like that.
So you're staying away from anything that might cause inflammation. It sounds like.
I guess so. Yeah, and no caffeine. You know, no alcohol, tobacco, or firearms.
Any fun?
There's an awful lot left, Sandy.
I'm only joking with you. It
A whole lot of stuff left, and that stuff that's left is really fun.
I know it is. I know it is. That line was just laying there.
Yeah, I know. You had to pick it up.
I'm sorry. No, I'm actually very impressed, and I wanted to know because I've observed, and I can tell that you're taking care of yourself. I can see it.
Well, and plus being on the road, because you're, it's always different time zones, and you're always jet lagged, flying from, Japan to New York to, Indonesia to, Europe, and I mean it's
exhausting at times.
It's exhausting,
yeah.
and particularly as you get older, you can't spring back like you used to.
No, you can't. And I found that as we start touring a lot too, and getting out there and sponsoring these events, that people think it's glamorous and fun, and it is fun. It's a ton of fun, but it's a lot of work, and you have to keep yourself in shape. And the choices that you make affect how much fun you're going to have that night or the next day.
There's no question about it. And how aware you are. I mean, and how conscious you are of being in the moment.
You want to remember it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
These days we want to remember things.
Yeah. Funny like that.
Yeah.
Right?
So, David, where can we find you online? A little bit more about you.
My online presence. Well, I've been dragged kicking and screaming into the, the computer age. That's how old I am. I still call it the computer age.
Do you have an app?
No, I don't. But I got a laptop about 4 years ago.
Oh, very good.
Right? I finally got a laptop.
We're not using those anymore.
I know. And a friend of mine said, "Welcome to the 90s, Dave."
We can find you at davidsanborn.com, I imagine. Are you a .net or a .com?
I think I'm a .com.
Okay, we're just going to stop this part right now.
Do we edit this?
No, he's a .com. He is a .com. And I know you're on Twitter because I see you there. I'm not sure if you're doing that, but okay. But we can tweet.
I shouldn't say that, right?
No, it's okay. We can tweet, but he's going to see it at some point. Yeah.
But I definitely see when people email my website and stuff. I do see that, and Facebook. I do see that.
Do you have an iPad?
Yes, I do.
I knew it.
I do have an iPad.
All these people say they're not technologically advanced, but they all have iPads.
The iPad is great. I mean, I love it, and I don't have an iPhone. I just have I have a cell phone that's what it does.
With big numbers?
Yeah, with big giant numbers, and that's all it does. It's a phone.
I got your story.
Yeah.
Cat.
Yeah, right. One of those cats.
It is a pleasure to finally meet you. Thanks for all the great music. Really, it just a joyful part of so many lives.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it. And this is the Smooth Jazz Cruise 2013. I'm Sandy Shore for smoothjazz.com.
Ta-da!